The first known burning at the stake of an alleged witch was recorded in the year 1275 in the city of Toulouse in France. On the European continent, a growing number of cases are to be found from the early Middle Ages and onwards, and by the mid-18th century more than 30,000 executions had been carried out. The phenomenon reached Sweden towards the end of the 17th century, and during that period known as the Great Commotion between 1668 and 1676, a total of 300 people, both men and women, were convicted of witchcraft and executed. 38 of these cases took place in northern Bohuslän, and the places most affected by these witch hunts were Kungälv, Mollösund, Marstrand, Tanum and Strömstad, which was then known as Vätter. In Vätter or Strömstad district, 8 women were convicted of witchcraft and burned at the stake. The executions took place at Vik, just a few kilometres outside of the town of Strömstad. Rumours and the way odd incidents were interpreted led to an environment where superstition was widespread throughout all sections of society. Evil, that is the devil, was considered a real presence. At that time, anybody could be accused of wizardry, but for the poor, especially women, or for anybody with a bad reputation, the risk was far greater than for those of prominent standing in the community. People were denounced by their neighbours or even by their own children. It was often envy or old feuds that lay behind the attacks. Male and female witches were collectively known as trolls. Men, women and even children could be possessed, although it was commonly thought that women were of a weaker nature and thus more receptive to the devil's temptations. By giving one's soul to the devil, it was thought, various powers would be acquired. It might be the ability to generate storms, to make objects fly, to transmit illnesses or sabotage harvests, to milk cows by proxy, or to make the cow go dry. Those with wizardry powers could induce accidents and even death. Trolls were also said to be insensitive to pain and even have the ability to take on the form of an animal. A bird or a cat acting strangely could be a sign that it was in fact a witch under a spell. Interrogating witches involved gathering evidence. Animals behaving strangely in proximity to the accused might constitute proof of conspiracy with the devil. Other examples were unusually shaped scars or birthmarks that looked like witches' markings. Accusations were followed by interrogation and frequently torture. It was almost impossible to survive questioning without saying something that could be interpreted as proof of the accused being a witch. Anybody condemned to death for witchcraft was obliged to pay for the trial, as well as the food, the guards, and also for the execution itself. The executioner was to be paid both for the torture and for the killing. Priests were paid for their part in the process, and the town clerk for recording the sentence. The last person to be convicted of witchcraft in Sweden was an 80-year-old woman in Eskilstuna who was sentenced to death and beheaded in 1704. But it wasn't until 1779 that the law against trolldom or sorcery was finally abolished.